Remember, if you've got a problem with your personal confuser, don't whine, don't moan, don't yell. Just call for help.
Coming up tonight, actor, teen idol, author, and of course, lifetime geek, Will Wheaton is here. Plus, our favorite PC diagnostic tools, there are a few, and install Linux inside of Windows. It's so cool. Live from the Tech TV studios in San Francisco, it's the Screensavers.
Gentlemen, and welcome to the Screensavers. I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Kevin Rose. Thanks for joining us on the Screensavers. This, of course, is the place to get your daily dose of all things tech.
Tonight's show is an outstanding one. Sci-fi icon, all-around geek, author. We're proud to call him a friend of the show. Will Wheaton.
Nice,
is
Will.
in the studio. Yeah. Plus, we got a laundry list of software to fix your PC on tap coming up.
And I'm going to show you how to install and run Linux right inside of Windows. No more partitioning, no more messing with any of that stuff.
We like that.
Yes, indeed.
Dan?
Yes, and I'm taking your phone calls, of course, as usual. You can give me a call at 888-989-7879, and also email us at thescreensavers@techtv.com. And also remember, if you have a netcam, you get a free T-shirt.
Ooh.
Not bad, huh?
Is it like that T-shirt?
Might be. No, I don't think it's like this one.
Screensavers T-shirt?
Screensavers T-shirt, right?
I think, yeah, it'll be a Screensavers T-shirt, yeah.
We like that.
Let's start off with the tech news that caught our eye today. Sarah has the stories.
I do. First story, a new internet security flaw has been found. It's a big one, and for once you can't blame it on Microsoft.
Yay!
The design flaw is inherent in TCP, the protocol that computers use, of course, to communicate over the internet. If someone exploits the hole, it could disrupt traffic across the internet, cause chaos and wreak havoc everywhere.
Sounds scary. Actually, the
Guys
cool
scared?
thing, though, we are a little scared, and we actually have, the exploit was identified by Paul Watson, who is in internet security research with the Open Source Vulnerability Database Project, and we have him on the phone right now. Hey, Paul.
Hello, Kevin and Patrick. How are you today?
Good.
Now, should we talk about whether there are patches for this first, or if the internet's going to stop?
We might be good.
There's been some reactive news reports about this.
Yeah, I think the first thing I should say is, no, the internet's not dead. It's not burning down. It's going to be there tomorrow, and everything's fine.
Yay!
Thousands of researchers around the world, or internet engineers, have really rolled out all the patches and all the fixes. So everything's secure. There's really no risk at this point. So everyone can kick back, relax, and browse their favorite websites.
So tell us what the problem was for the people that don't know at home. What happened, and how did you discover this?
I attended a conference in Las Vegas last year where all the hackers go to called Black Hat, and I listened to a really great presentation from Cisco, a couple of their security researchers looking at vulnerabilities in the Internet. And while the entire paper was excellent, there was one issue that I kind of took concern with and went back and did additional research on my own and kind of came up with completely different results. And,
Was it a theoretical paper versus actual real-world experience kind of a situation?
Well, that was it. It was one of those issues that a lot of people knew about, and everybody just assumed it was possible but impractical, so nobody really looked at it very hard. And so I kind of, stood on the shoulders of a lot of giants that came before me and did a lot of great research in this area, like Steve Bellovin of AT&T, and kind of built on their research and came up with some new findings. And once I published it, it seemed to kind of scare everybody a little bit.
So I'm going to say essentially, this is about as much as this I understand. You're essentially talking about breaking sessions in basically the IP4 spec, and that allows people to break ongoing transactions between browsers or pretty much anything else talking to a server over the internet. Is that essentially what's happening?
Yeah, that's correct. And actually, the piece where you can break a connection with a web browser is still going to be there. The big concern for everybody was breaking the communication between all the routers on the internet that route the traffic around the globe. It's kind of like the internet highway system if all the bridges were to disappear overnight.
That would be bad. Yeah, that would be a bad thing. So it's fixed now, though. You're saying that the patches are out there. There's administrators working on this right now on the router level. Is that where the patches have to take place?
Yes, they've been working on this for the past week around the globe. It's really been the most coordinated effort ever seen, really, for all these engineers at all these different ISPs around the globe to kind of get together and nobody could really do it on their own. Everybody had to work together to get the patches rolled out.
Wow.
And they did it all under the cloak of darkness and secrecy, and it kind of snuck out a little bit earlier. We weren't supposed to know about it till tomorrow.
Is there any chance that there's some people sort of asleep in dark corners of the world, not knowing that they're supposed to be upgrading their routers right now, or maybe should we tell anybody out there who's a sysadmin is make sure your routers have been patched?
I just advise everyone to at least be aware of what's going on and then make an educated judgment. If you think it's a problem for you, probably fix it. And if you don't think it's a concern, don't bother with it. Everyone has to judge their risk according to their own level threshold of pain.
Makes sense. That sounds like the general thing to do, though, would be to upgrade.
I know. When I first heard the story, I thought for sure it was going to be a Microsoft thing, but I guess not. The one time they slipped by.
Well, I can't give them complete credit there. They're actually just as vulnerable, if not more so, than everybody else. But this is really an everybody problem.
Right.
This isn't Microsoft's problem.
Yeah, I was going to say, if all the routers that connect all of the servers that make up the Internet stop talking, that's a little more worrisome than my browser not being able to log into a banking site.
Yes.
Exactly.
Cool. All right, Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Hey, it was quite a pleasure there, Kevin and Patrick, and I really enjoy your show. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
He did the right thing, too, by not announcing it to the world. Sometimes when they find these vulnerabilities, they send it out to the masses.
Look, it's a hole!
Yeah, so they kept it kind of under the radar until everyone got their patches installed. Good thing. Definitely good
and
thing.
you know what? Upgrade your routers if you haven't.
Yes.
It's better that way.
Sarah has another story
I
for
love
us.
that picture of Paul Watson. He's like, no suits, I'm just going to take a picture from the beach. All tan and everything.
That's awesome.
I've got
Go
an
Paul.
IQ of 190.
I better get into internet security. It looks fun. Anyway, moving on. No more amnesty program from the RIAA. The Recording Industry Association of America announced that they had ended their controversial program called Clean Slate, which debuted back in September of 2003. Clean Slate offered amnesty to file sharers who sent in notarized apologies saying they erased unauthorized content from their computers, destroyed hard copies of illegally obtained copyrighted materials, and would abstain from future file swapping. I'm guessing that people were just lying, and that's why they stopped this program.
I mean, who did this?
Well, apparently...
You had to send in your ID, too. You had to make a photocopy of your ID.
And it was notarized.
You're not
Apparently,
doing that.
all of something like 1,100 people took advantage of this, right? Because they really bought into the idea the RIAA was going to forgive and forget just as long as they had everything they needed to nail you to the floor, notarized with your signature on it. Can't imagine why people didn't buy in. Apparently, the thing that finally ended it was a lawsuit where somebody said, this is, and I'm going to go out on the edge here. I'm going to use a word that I barely understand. We'll call it entrapment. But essentially, they're asking people to give up evidence of wrongdoing. It's messy. It's gone. It probably wasn't much of a defense in the first place. Yeah, it's just...
There was no way I was doing that.
No.
There's no way. I have too much music. Don't want to get rid of that stuff.
I've destroyed 11 gigabytes of files. I'm really, really sorry, and I'll never do it again.
As you burned a DVD and then set it on your shelf, but no way, no.
Raid his house, not mine. Just kidding. Thanks, Sarah.
Sure. Have a good show.
We will. We're just getting started. Is there any decent diagnostic software out there for free? We're going to show you. Good stuff. And after the break, Will Wheaton's going to talk to us about how being a geek has made a dream of becoming a published author come true. Good stuff coming in 2.5 minutes. He's an actor, a blogger, an open source advocate, an all-around geek, and a pretty talented author with a new book on the way. I take great pleasure in welcoming back to the Screensavers, Will Wheaton. Sir, you got some fun now. Dancing Barefoot was published, it actually came out, I guess, 2003, and actually you just got some good news. It's being reissued from O'Reilly.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
It's about as cool as things can get, actually.
You
I wrote this book. This came out of a forthcoming book called Just a Geek. It'll be out in June. But I wrote it. I really liked it. And I didn't want to experience as an author what I've experienced my whole life as an actor, which is working really hard to make a creative product and then taking it to someone and going, please tell me this is good enough to share with an audience. So I founded a publishing company and I self-published the book. And because of it's entirely because of the people that read my website and some independent bookstores, Mysterious Galaxy in San Diego and Powell's up in Portland, Oregon. They all got behind me. We did over 3,000 books in 3 months. That got the attention of Tim O'Reilly. I went up to the open source convention in Portland last year, and Tim O'Reilly O'Reilly came to one of my readings, saw me, got my book, really liked it, and then made efforts to get in touch with me and wanted to be my publisher.
How cool is that?
It's really cool.
O'Reilly's like the god of, O'Reilly's like the god of open source publishing. He's probably got the best reputation of anybody that produces books out there.
I lost my mind when I met him. I totally freaked out. And I was like, okay, I had this conversation with my brain. My brain was all, dude, seriously, keep it cool. Don't
But you're the animal book guy. You're the animal book guy.
Right. And my brain was like, you know what? This is why you didn't stab me with a key. Listen to my advice. Just play it cool. And I did. And what I said was, you've made my life so much easier with all of your books, and I'm just going to stop talking now. And that was it. And it was great.
Probably, it's one of those moments where you just want to like come across as psycho fanboy.
Yeah, exactly.
You probably, you have some experience with psycho fanboys too, so you're probably highly aware of that. Just a smidge.
Yeah.
The whole Star Trek.
Yeah. Incidentally, in this thing, 1 inch equals 70 billion miles. So.
That's a rough scale. So.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just having a mental image of what that must be like at a convention. The book's great. You actually have a huge collection coming out later this summer, a much larger book coming out this summer. Just a Geek.
Yeah.
Is that grown out of the blog also, or was that sort of a start to finish right
Yeah. When I started writing my weblog, I didn't start writing my weblog because I was like, oh, I'm going to be a big author or whatever. I just liked to write, and I just thought of weblogging tools as this great way to take what was in my mind and stick it up on the web. I never thought anybody that I didn't know from real life would care about what I had to write.
And do you have 100,000 people a day or a month?
About 100,000 a week, a little more than that. If I stop to think about it, it really freaks me out, and I can't, and I like lock up and I can't write, you know. But people started to encourage me to write a book and take the stories that I was telling and turn them into a book. So I finally just listened to the advice, and I thought, well, okay, I'll take a chance and see what happens with it. That was Just a Geek, and it was too long. So the stories that I had to cut out of Just a Geek, I put into this book, Dancing Barefoot. And there's also, I was asked to have some of my material included in this book called Never Threaten to Eat Your Coworkers, The Best of the Blogs. And it's rad because I'm totally alongside these amazing bloggers and amazing authors with stories that also didn't make it into Just a Geek.
Are there blogs you check religiously? I mean,
I read. Well, I don't know if you call Boing Boing a blog, but I read Boing Boing several times a day.
More of a state of mind, I think.
I read the Daily Kos numerous times a day. A lot of the political weblogs, you know, Atrios and This Modern World. My friend Kathleen writes a website called Dirty Fez that I absolutely love. Kevin Malone has a website at Blogspot. I think he calls it Fat Free Milk. I met him at a They Might Be Giants concert last week. This is the coolest thing ever. This T-shirt, which I wasn't allowed to wear on Call for Help earlier today because it's not safe, is from this guy called Corn Mo, and he was opening for They Might Be Giants. And I went up because I thought he was great, and I said, look, you're the artist. I want to support you. I want to buy your shirt. I want to buy your CD. And he goes, oh my God, you're Will Wheaton. And I went, yeah, I am. And he goes, dude, I love your website. And I was like, oh, yes, I am. And then, I was sitting at the bar waiting for them to bring me my beer, and this guy comes up to me and he goes, are you Will Wheaton? And I go, yeah. He goes, I love your website. And I was like, yeah! And it was this guy, Kevin Malone. So I said, have you ever heard of Kevin Malone? To my friend Kat. She goes, oh my God, he writes a great weblog. So getting some recognition from people who are, have been given respect from other people is a really big deal for me. That's really cool.
It's a good thing. You have a very well-developed voice as a writer in the books it comes across. It's very clean. It's very polished. Was writing the blog, did it sort of, most people, they write a blog and it's kind of like, I've seen people write 700 sentences about having leftover stew for lunch.
Only 700?
Well,
yeah.
It was a slow day, apparently. I mean,
I think I went back when I was editing Just a Geek, and my weblog in the beginning, it sucks out loud. I mean, it's everything that people say is lame about blogs. It's like, yeah, I looked at my feet today, man, and I saw like some food on them, and then I ruminate about it. You know, I mean, it's just lame. And over time, I got more comfortable with myself, and I just started telling stories, and that's just what I do every day. I just recount stories and publish them. The great thing about the weblog is that it gives me an opportunity to have kind of a dialogue with people about all kinds of different things. If it's you can do so many things with it. If you see something that really pisses you off, I'm like, duh, this guy was such a dick. I'm going to write about it now, Or if I run across somebody and like, wow, this band is amazing. I can bring that to people. I just helped a girl who's doing her thesis on blogs, and I said, it'd be cool if you guys could do this. And in less than 3 hours, like 1,000 people had gone to her thing and taken a survey to help her out with her, with her thesis. And that sort of stuff is really, really cool. When I do writing, it's totally no risk, you know? I mean, if it sucks, so what? There'll be something up the next day or the day after that. And if it's good, then I can edit it and I can turn it into some cool story and I can expand it, and that's how I've ended up with 2 books.
It's a nice way to sort of sneak your way into writing a book, you know.
Because I
because
I didn't start out to do that. I mean, that wasn't my plan.
So what comes next?
Just a Geek comes out in June, and I think that's going to be it for this year. I spent the last few months intensely writing. I realized that I hadn't really seen my family in about 2.5 months. Like, I'd been in the same room with them, we'd gone and done things together, but my head was really off in writing land, you know? So I'm gonna take the rest of the year, I think, to publicize Just a Geek and Dancing Barefoot, and I've been asked to write for a few magazines.
Cool.
So I'm doing that. And then I think I'm going to start work on a work of mostly fiction, like sort of semi-autobiographical fiction. If The Body, you know, Stephen King's book that became Stand By Me, is a semi-autobiographical story about Stephen King, I'm going to do something like that that's kind of about myself, where I'm just going to take my experiences and not put them in a straight narrative format. And I've got a website book coming out from O'Reilly sometime next year. We haven't figured out exactly when it's going to come out, but a kind of a technical book on personal website design.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
The last question: you wrote the entire book in Open Office on Linux. You know, what's your favorite open source application right now? Question.
Gosh, it's such an open-ended question.
Yeah.
There's so much terrific open source software.
Pick one of 30,000 applications. Do it on air in 30 seconds or less.
What I love about the whole open source movement is that when somebody needs something, they can ask a project manager, can you help me do this? And then suddenly there's 40 people, you know, like, yeah, here you go. And then 1,000 people modify it and make it better and make it stronger. I really think my favorite open source application is probably the K-desktop environment, you know, and KDE 3.2 and Knoppix.
It's your favorite way to look at Linux.
Has been really, really useful for me to, you know, share Linux and the open source movement with other people. Okay. I'm sure on my way to the airport today I'll think, God, oh, damn it, I should have said whatever that thing is. But, you know, the whole thing is, the whole movement is so useful.
I'll tell you what, you figure out what you want to promote next time, we'll have you back on.
And thanks for calling me friend of the show. That was awesome.
He's cool. You can find out more about Will Wheaton and his books on our website, thescreensavers.com. Go to O'Reilly.com to find his books, and, of course, his blog, willwheaton.net. Good stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out. Still to come, which diagnostic software works and which ones don't. We're going to help you find some great stuff for your system to fix it for free. And up next, Jeff is on the line. He wants to keep up with the Joneses with a new gaming rig. We're going to find out if he's spending money he doesn't need to. Coming up when the Screensavers continue.
Don't forget to register for this week's Screensavers LAN party.
That would be powered by NVIDIA.
This week's game is one of the hottest on the market right now. We're all playing it, Far Cry. The weapons are amazing and the graphics probably the best I've seen in a game.
They're exquisite. And to top it off, not only are we fragging in a LAN party, we're also giving away our LAN party machines. The old ones, you got 2 chances to win, 2 machines to win. First, simply register for our LAN party and you're automatically entered. Second, be sure to watch for the secret code word during our LAN party this Thursday. You'll enter that on the website, and you get a better chance to win. How do you like that?
Nice. We're only giving away one more machine. We only have one left. One out of the
2
4.
chances, 1 machine.
2 chances, 1 machine. So go to our website and click on Join Our LAN Party to register, and you must have the full version of Far Cry to play, and we will see you this Thursday for the Screensavers LAN Party. But if you don't have the full version, download the demo. It's a lot of fun.
Or at least you'll find out. You know, you'll find out if it'll cripple your system in the process.
Which it did mine.
Oh, man. Jeff joins us on the phone from Doyle, California.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Kevin, Patrick, how are we?
Good. And yourself?
Well, aside from my PC woes, not too bad.
PC woes?
Well, I find myself looking to upgrade my system. My old one's dead, gone, and in the closet. And I want to find out if I need to buy the latest and greatest new components to get into games like Far Cry, Doom 3 when it finally shows, and, you know, the like.
Well, we've got good news and we've got bad news.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the good news is that for anything other than playing those video games, you really don't need top-of-the-line components. The bad news is I guarantee you Doom 3 is going to put a hurting on any hardware you can buy today.
Okay.
That'll
and
be like
kind of
the
what
entry level. Unless you want to play it at like 640 by 480 with all the features turned off, in which case it should be playable. Do you want to build a system yourself, or do you want to buy a pre-configured system, Jeff?
Well, you know, actually, I've looked a lot at the different manufacturers, and I think I'm just going to do it on my own.
Nice.
Cool.
That's awesome.
We liked that.
So what are you looking at right now? Give me a rundown of what you're thinking for this gaming machine. Have you picked out a video card yet? Picked out a motherboard and processor combination?
I have, actually. I've been looking at the AMD XP 3200.
Nice.
Nice.
The Asus A78X MOBO.
Great
Very
motherboards.
And the Barton chipset as far as the processor.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as video card would be concerned, either the ATI 9800 XT, 128 megabyte, or the NVIDIA FX 5700 Ultra.
Probably go with the 9800 for that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
With the ATI on that one, it's got pretty good performance. I'd also say it's going to be interesting. Do you need the system now, or can you wait a couple, 3-4 weeks?
Well, no, I'm in a holding pattern at this point.
Be careful, because like if you keep waiting, you'll be like me. And once I waited 2.5 years to upgrade a system, it can get really, because especially like I know it's coming in 6 months, and it's like just a little bit longer.
Absolutely.
And the price performance point will be right.
We just saw the release of NVIDIA's new graphics card,
Right.
the 6800, which is awesome.
Well, it's more the announcement. Than the release,
That's what I was going to say.
You can't buy it.
Yeah, it's going to be a couple months yet, and then finally, once they hit the shelves, that's when you're going to see a drop in all the rest of the high-end cards.
Right.
So you might want to wait till that comes out.
I'll do that.
Somewhere around the same time, AT&T is going to release their next generation card, probably like that week or within a week or two of that, which again is going to push down all the prices. And you know what? It may or may not be a little bit faster, and that's what we're waiting to find out, is to see the shipping versions of both the new cards from ATI and NVIDIA,
Right.
and to see what they actually price out at. The truth is what kind of a monitor you're working with?
I'm actually going to purchase a new one, so I'm open there.
Okay, if you go for a monitor that'll display 1600 by 1200, then it's a great time to spend the money for the fastest game, basically the fastest 3D graphics card you can afford,
Right.
and you can run those games at 1600 by 1200 or 1280 by 1024. If you're working on like a 17-inch monitor that you're going to use a 10 by 7 display, the truth is you don't need the fastest graphics cards out there, because your graphics card, if it's not running maxed out at 1280 by 1024 or 1600 by 1200, it's like putting a Ferrari engine in a VW.
Absolutely.
Just to let you know, Jeff,
What do you need?
I also bought the 3200 Plus. I just got that CPU, and I have the 5950, and I'm running Far Cry at 1024 by 768 maxed out, and it still has some problems.
Yeah.
There's a little sluggishness. Now, that could be related to like a new driver, and they might need to, patch some things up. But these games are really they're really taxing the CPUs and graphics cards, especially the new Doom 3. That's just going to hit it hard.
The people in the graphics industry are frightened at Doom 3 because they're like, it's going to sell a zillion graphics cards,
And it will.
if we can make it run
Yeah.
fast enough.
Exactly.
So it's going to be fun to watch that one ship.
I'm looking forward.
Yeah. So if you wanted an excuse to spend a lot of money, Jeff, you've picked the right one. What else could you do that would be that desperate for performance, editing video or editing?
Yeah, video editing, graphic design. But yeah, I would just say hold on, wait until Doom 3 comes out, read the reviews, which cards are getting the best frame rates, and then go from there.
Good advice. Thanks, Jeff.
Now here is Sarah. She wants you to meet some of your favorite Tech TV personalities.
Yes, I do. If you wish we talked more about gaming on the Screensavers, then you're going to love our Digital Digs Roadshow, where you'll meet X-Blaze, Adam Sessler, and Morgan Webb. They love talking about gaming. The Roadshow hits Pasadena, California on April 24th and 25th. The event runs from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturday and noon to 5 on Sunday. If you want to learn about the coast-to-coast stops of the Roadshow and to find out when we Screensavers are hitting your town, go to techtv.com/digitaldigs. Now, stay right where you are, because coming up, Kevin's going to show you how to run any version of Linux or Unix inside of Windows XP. That's amazing. And after the break, find out how to give your PC a better diagnostic test than Dan could ever hope to when the Screensavers continue.
Welcome back to the Screensavers. I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Kevin Rose. Coming up in this half hour, run any version of Linux right inside of Windows XP.
Cool.
And don't be shocked to find out how our next caller wants to ground himself. He wants to ground his PC. He's worried about, the static electricity destroying his components.
We'll tell you all about that later on. We answer, we get a ton of questions here. What should I use to this? What should I use to that? What software do you use to test your PC? So right now we're going to show you what the lab folks and I got together and think are some must-have diagnostic tools to fix your system.
Yeah, we're always getting new machines in, and the lab is always putting up, benchmarks and things like that. And people always ask us, what are they running? And you have, 5 different tools to show us?
We're going to start with one that's not the most, this is not the most stimulating tool, but this is one that Robert Heron, the guy who does all of our benchmarks, swears by. Basically, Prime 95. Now check this out. This looks boring. This looks like insane insane, right? But Robert Heron says if your system will run Prime 95, this beautiful white screen, for 24 hours, you have no issues when you've built a new system. Now, why is that? Check this out. See that flat line there? You can't even see it. We've maxed out our CPU usage at 100%, and it'll run like this for hours.
So tell us what Prime 95 actually does. It downloads prime numbers, right?
Basically, it downloads prime number information to factor.
Okay.
And above and beyond that, we start doing higher math, and I start getting really clueless. But well, I understand it's like a prime is divisible by 1 in itself, and that's when it all falls apart for me. But basically, they're doing huge amounts of division and addition and subtraction or some other mathematic thing. The point is, though, is this max out your CPU. This is like, it's hard for video games a lot of times to actually put that kind of a load on your system.
So when you hear certain manufacturers, they do what's called a burn-in process. Is that what they're talking about? Something like along those lines?
Essentially, what they're doing right there is what they're doing is sometimes they may have specific applications they want to run, but what people have discovered over time is electronic components tend to fail like in the first 24 hours or the first month, or they tend to run forever. Processors, they don't really degrade as long as they're properly cooled and they're fed the proper voltage. They tend to run,
so
forever.
This is stress testing, basically.
Exactly.
Cool.
So we like that. Speaking of stress testing, check out this one down in the corner here. We've got like this little thing right down here. I don't know if we can see those little tiny numbers. What we're measuring here right now is our case temperature and our CPU temperature. Boy, temperature. The T is the one that starts temperature, right? And if we right-click on that, we can get this, which is motherboard monitor 5.0. And what that does actually is allows you to monitor a bunch of the settings inside of the system. So we can actually see what the current voltage is coming out of our power supply. We can look at the voltage inside the core of the processor. We've got our case temperature, our CPU temperature, and if you start playing around with the interesting stuff, if you look at the upper left-hand corner, you can have an on-screen display. If you're truly paranoid about the processor in your system and how hot it's running or not, and there's a ton of stuff that's really nice to configure inside of here. If we go to our settings, we can actually set up alarm options so that in case, it'll actually sense if the temperature is getting too high inside of your system. You can actually automatically have it. It'll start beeping.
We can tell it to shut down the machine altogether, right?
We like that.
That's cool, because if you're doing some overclocking and you're away from your machine, or something's running in the background, like some kind of crazy process that's maxing out your CPU, you don't want to burn out your CPU.
That would be bad.
You'd rather have it just shut down. That makes sense.
Maybe when the first time when you're running Prime 95, just if it's going to run 24 hours, maybe
put that in there when you go to bed.
It's a good idea. Next one that we absolutely love, CPU ID. A lot of people are like, I bought a system, I'm not sure if it's running at the right speed. H-OTA.com is a classic overclockers tool, and what it does is identify the processor inside of your system, and more importantly, for identifying especially the Athlon systems where the rated clock speed or the numbering, the marketing number for it is different from the actual CPU speed. It allows you to tell you what your system bus is running at.
So, example, this is the 1800 plus, but it's actually running at 1.5 gigahertz.
Exactly, but it'll give you the processor name, the frequency it's running at, and the frequency of your internal system bus.
Nice.
So people go, wait, it's a 400 megahertz system bus. No, it's a 200 megahertz system bus that's double clocked.
Well, we've heard
DDR.
Also, we've heard people at computer shows, they selling CPUs and they remark the CPUs.
Right.
And actually, they're selling you a phony CPU, and this is how you can tell whether or not you're being scammed.
The really bad thing about that is if you load it into most motherboards, it'll automatically configure it at what AMD thinks it should be, not what the person who's telling you to overclock thinks it should be. That can be really frustrating. Last tool, this is kind of an amazing...
This is one of my favorites right here.
Yeah, that's one of the great Swiss Army knives of all system software. And what we're looking at here is Sysoft Sandra. And if I double-click on this, it'll basically analyze my system. And it'll tell me exactly what's inside my system. It's kind of like the Belkin stuff we used to talk about all the time.
Right.
And would analyze
Belarc Advisor.
Belarc Advisor,
yes.
That's the one. But what we're looking in here is basically it's telling us the name of the system, how it's configured, who the users, who's controlling it, the processor, information. We actually use this to find out what motherboard was inside of this system, so we could configure motherboard monitor to look at it. This is just like, I'm going to click out of this window in a second, so don't be too shocked at home. They also allow you to do things like look at the bus structure on your system, your more direct CPU information, pretty much anything. DirectX if you're having issues with the way games are being handled.
Version numbers installed.
Exactly.
One of the things I like on this, though, is I use it for the diagnostic tests that you can run, the benchmarking utilities.
Yeah, I'm not as big a fan of these as you are, but this is a good way to make sure that everything's running and to get a good look at what's going on there. If I was going to benchmark for games, I'd rather use a game directly, but if you want to have a good idea of what's going on, like memory bandwidth benchmark, you can actually run that and find out whether or not you're getting the sort of throughput you were hoping to get when you do a memory upgrade or change some settings around.
And what you're seeing there is actually it's comparing it against other machines that it has in its little database. So you can find out how fast your machine is compared to your friends if you want.
Cool. We got actually one last one. You know what? We're not going to show you the last one because it's not real exciting. It's MemTest 86, and you've seen it before. But we've got the links to these diagnostic tools and a bunch more up on the screensavers, all at the screensavers.com.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Pat. So here we are. Our next caller wants to ground his PC, but up next, run Linux right inside of Windows with no partitioning required. That's all when the Screensavers continue.
Let's check in with the fine folks over at Tech Live to see what's coming up tonight.
Finding getting finer. Gentlemen, listen to this. What happens when a hard-partying mad scientist meets the home makeover show Monster House, you may ask? Or may not? Well, I'm going to give you the answer anyway. How about a lab that doubles as a bar and a den?
The infamous time
Look at
clock.
that.
I don't know.
What's
One
that?
day, 9 hours, 14
Well, that's him
minutes.
talking. I thought it was you guys. Actually, it's a den that's designed to be the inside of a brain, which I don't know what that looks like. I don't think I have an inside of mine, to be honest with you. It's all happening tonight on Tech Live. We're going to show you how this wacky home experiment turned out. Isn't that cool looking?
I want to see the brain, man. I want to see the brain.
Look inside. Look inside yourself, and I don't know.
I think it's a better idea to tune in on Tech Live right after the Screensavers.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.
Thanks, Chris. Sir.
Yes.
More
we are
Linux.
talking, more Linux. For first-time users of Linux, one of the biggest complaints is that they have to repartition the hard drive.
That's scary.
It's scary, it's a little bit confusing, it eats up a bunch of disk space, but what if you could run Linux right inside of Windows without having to worry about repartitioning at all? Well, today I'm going to show you VMware, an application that allows you to run virtual machines, or VMs, right inside of Windows.
So rather than using Knoppix, which basically loads without right into your system, you can play with Linux, but you can't use Windows at the same time. Can you really use Windows and Linux at the same time?
Yeah, you can really use Windows and Linux at the same time. And the cool thing is with Knoppix, when you boot off the CD, it's hard because you can't really save things. Because the second you reboot your computer, you're not going to have Linux any longer. So let's take a look at it here. This is VMware running inside Windows XP. You'll see it's an application just like anything else. And I'm actually going to start an installation of Linux. So we're going to choose File and then New Virtual Machine. It pops up a nice little wizard here. We're going to say Typical. And I'm going to choose a Linux installation. Now, just to let you know, you can also run Windows inside of Windows. Now, they may sound like something that's going to crash, but actually it's pretty stable, and it allows you to run like old 98 applications or things that you need to have access to.
And
or
even stuff that you're developing on and don't want it to crash your main production.
Exactly. Like, look here, it has support for Longhorn, the new Microsoft OS that's coming out soon.
Experimental.
I'm going to choose Linux here. We'll choose Red Hat Enterprise 3.
Are all these pre-configured and installed when you put
No,
VMware on?
they are not pre-configured and installed. Basically, it's just telling you the types of settings that it's optimizing for. It's putting in certain BIOS configurations and certain types of processor support when you choose the virtual machine.
Was this hard to set up? Because I know in the
Very
past
easy.
that VMware used to be real.
No, this is really easy. I'm gonna walk you through it right here. So you choose the virtual machine name right here, which is Red Hat Enterprise Linux 3.2. Choose Next here. We'll say we're going to use bridge networking. That's fine. Now this is where it gets interesting because it's going to say your disk capacity. How big do you want your hard drive to be within Linux? Now you think, I don't want to eat up a lot of my hard drive space, so I probably won't choose a big, 30 gigabyte hard drive in here.
You've got a couple of 200 gig hard drives.
But here's the thing, though. It's actually dynamically expanding partitions.
Really?
So if you choose 8 or 10 or 20 gigabytes, it only uses the amount of software that you have installed. So I'm going to choose, I'll just go 8.0 for now, and then choose Finish here. And then once we've done that, it's created the new virtual machine. Here it is, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 3.2. And so you can see here it's going to map my CD-ROM drive. It's going to bridge my NIC network interface card. I'm going to go ahead and put this into the CD-ROM drive right now. Put it in the first tray. I put the first disk of Red Hat Linux in.
This is only the first time you install it. You don't have to do this
Right, no, this is just the first time you install. I'm just going to show you the first little snapshot of it here. And then we click the play button up here on the top. And the second we click the play button, it's actually going to boot a virtual computer. Oh, I have too many other virtual... I have Linux running over here. Let's just click
stop. You should say that this is a memory-intensive
Yes, it's very memory-intensive. In fact, it was saying right there, I'm running 2 other instances of Linux, and it was giving me a little error. So we're going to click play there, and it's actually going to boot a virtual computer here. So you can actually go into your virtual BIOS or whatever you want to do. See, this is my virtual BIOS inside here. So it's a computer inside of a computer. We're going to say exit, and then there it is, just like a computer would be booting. And I'll show you here. It's going to recognize the CD.
It's so odd to watch.
Isn't it kind of weird? It's just booting inside of it. There's Red Hat right there, and you choose the installation, and now you have a virtual Linux running inside of Windows, and it's actually really fast. They've really optimized it in this version. Let me show you a final product here so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. If we hit Control-Alt-Escape, it gives us our mouse control back again. And if you look at the tabs here at the top, these are the different versions of Linux that I have installed. Here's Debian, Red Hat Linux. I'm going to go to Mandrake Linux right here and just click on that. Now, I've already booted the operating system, so I can click within the operating system, and now I'm inside. If I hit Control-Alt and Enter, it's going to give me a full screen of the operating system. So here we're running Linux full screen, and you can see it's really fast and responsive. We go into our home directory here. It's not too bad. There's actually special drivers that come with VMware. It's much faster. For sure, and it actually gives you the full Linux experience. You don't have to worry about messing up anything in Windows. And it's not going to take up a huge chunk of your hard drive space like you would if you had to partition. So cool. What do you think?
Outstanding.
It's pretty cool, and it's nice because you can go tabbed between the different ones. Like I have Debian running over here, which I start, and I have a completely different configuration, that completely different file set, and it actually stores the files. I'll show you real quick here. Under My Documents, there is actually a thing that says My Virtual Machines here. We're going to go in that. And then this is all the different operating systems that I've set up on this machine. We'll go into, let's say, not FreeBSD, let's go into my Mandrake, and you'll see here's the VM. That's the actual installation of Linux here. It's 1.2 gigabytes in size, and it just resides there on your hard drive. If you ever need to delete it, you just delete, and it goes away.
Is it expensive?
It is a little pricey. This was actually originally created for software developers, quality assurance testers, IT professionals, so it's $189. But if you really want to get into Linux and you don't want to worry about repartitioning, there's actually a 30-day free trial that you can check out, full featured in my article, links to it at thescreensavers.com.
Excellent.
Cool stuff. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
I can't wait. Ladies and gentlemen, coming up after the break, don't panic, stay grounded. That's exactly what Billy, our next caller, says he needs. We're going to tell you all about grounding and building PCs after these messages. Be sure to catch tomorrow's show. Learn how to defend yourself from rootkits. Plus, can your internet speed on dial-up really double using the right ISP? We're going to put them to the test for you. And Sarah shows you how to get any local image as your internet homepage. It's all coming up on tomorrow's Screensavers.
But now,
Billy joins us on the phone from Peru, Illinois.
Hey, Billy.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good.
Good.
That's good.
How can we help you today?
Well, I had a bit of a question about grounding and the specifics there. I know, like, I shouldn't be standing on, like, a carpet or getting static electricity, and you got the wristbands, but how hardcore do I have to be to keep myself safe from blowing, like, a $250 processor or something?
So you're building systems, and basically everybody's like, we sent you your card in an anti-static bag. That's a really cool
They put a big
bag.
warning sticker on the outside there.
You'll zap it if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Is it really dry in your home? Can you see sparks every time you touch a door handle or something?
No, we don't get any of that.
Because if you have like the world's driest heat and big shag carpets and you wear leather shoes and you can walk around shocking the cat or small children anytime you touch them, that's when we actually start thinking about using things like these. Grounding yourself.
Yes, wrist straps.
Now, you've seen us build a couple systems on the show, right, Billy?
Yeah, I have, and I've actually built a couple myself.
Have you ever used a grounding strap?
I used the grounding strap once, and I had the case attached to a ground wire.
Yeah, basically, you
strap this on.
Yeah, you put it to an unpainted part of the case, which actually the Lubick PC doesn't really have much in the way of unpainted parts of the case. But you attach it to something that's grounded on the case, and I'm going to pick this little tiny thing back here. Well, I'll ground it to the power supply just for fun. We'll get some engineers telling me how that doesn't work in the emails later on. But the idea, right, is that this keeps you grounded. There's nothing you can do is walk up to the system and touch the case. That's what I usually do.
Ground you right there. Then you don't have to worry unless you're walking. Well, unless you're on carpet, it was the big thing that I've heard.
Have you ever used one of these?
I have. They made us wear them when I worked at the Nevada test site for a while, but that was because it was a requirement. Sarah likes to detach it and use it as a fashion bracelet. That's just what she likes to do, but...
I used it once when I was installing a processor that I was told was $30,000 if I broke it. That's the only time I've ever used it.
What processor was that?
It was a pre-run of something from Cyrex, and they used to basically take all the millions of dollars of research, and they would sort of, as they ran chips off, the first chip was worth $1 million, and the second chip was worth $500,000.
Yeah, the $30,000 one.
They would divide them, so they were up to like 50 chips or something.
Nice.
Yoshi, you've built probably more systems than I have.
I don't use them. As a matter of fact, I'm not too worried about static and all these. Let me see if I can build up enough to destroy this sound card.
I wouldn't do that.
I've never had a problem with static shorting something out.
Yeah.
And maybe I will, but I built a lot of systems.
And Patrick and Kevin and Yoshi went home that night and immediately zapped all three of their personal systems.
Yeah, that would be Murphy's Law right there.
That would be really depressing is what that would be. Here's the thing, right? If you can see sparks, if you're walking across and you touch things and you get the static shock, sure, why not? Ground yourself against the case, use the little strap. But the truth is we've all been building systems for years. We don't really use them, and we've never lost any components to them. You be the judge, Billy. Good luck, man.
Thanks.
Have fun.
You too. Bye.
Will. Thanks, Billy. Let's check in with Dan now for a helpful tip.
Thank you, guys. Have you ever realized you can't rename the recycle bin? Well, because of Sarah, you now have the power to do it. So head on over to thescreensavers.com/show-notes for Sarah's detailed instructions, but it's not as easy as you might think, so follow them very explicitly. But stay where you are, because we're going to read your emails right after this.
It's that time. Fashion accessories. Sarah, do you have any emails?
I just wanted to, just point out that it's a grounder and it's also a choker.
Oh, that's
Ooh. See?
nice. Static
You
free
never
and stylish.
knew being a geek could be so fashionable. Moving on. Byron says, I was wondering what's the cheapest way to print. I have a Canon printer. That little cartridge is very spendy. Are there any kind of cheap printers? Are there any kinds of cheap printers or cheap cartridges?
You ever hear of giving away razors to sell blades?
Yes.
Printers keep getting cheaper and cheaper, and the little tiny cartridges that go in them keep going up and up and up. They increase, the cost of the cartridge, which increases the cost per page, which means long term, right? They can sell you a printer once, but they can sell you ink cartridges for decades. And we've always wanted to do a story where we basically looked at every single printer being sold and looked at the cost per page by basically, finding the price of every single cartridge they sell for them. And it just gets ridiculous because now they have 37 different ink cartridge options for every 4 printers.
What about refills? I've heard of what is it, Monk cartridges? Where those monks refill those printer cartridges?
Well, they were doing actually, I think originally toner cartridges for laser printers and copiers. Don't know if they do inkjet. There's some people who say if you refill inkjets, you'll violate your warranty, but it's one thing to look at.
Yeah.
The truth is, though, is it costs money to print with an inkjet, and that's not going away unless you figure out a place to buy them used or start refilling them yourself. Yeah. The other thing is you can try buying online because sometimes you can save 20-30% on the cost of cartridges over your local store. They're not cheap, though, and the more likely what we found is the cheaper the printer costs, the more you're going to be spending on ink for that printer.
Interesting.
Annoying.
Yes.
Ready for the next one? This one comes from James in Geelong, Australia. By the way, have you noticed our Australian fans are some of our most vocal?
I know.
Hello to all you guys in Australia. He wants to know, I'd like to copy the hard disk content from a faulty Xbox to a new Xbox. Can this be done?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, it actually can be done. What you're going to need, you have to have a modded Xbox.
Okay.
And you have to be able to...
2 modded Xboxes.
Well, if the hard drive is faulty, though, you're not even going to be able to get the data off it in the first place. But if you can still access the hard drive and FTP into the modded Xbox, you can just drag and drop, and that's actually compatible across the different file systems. Drag and drop it onto your desktop, all the files, all the saved game files, all that information. And then once you install the new drive and format it, you can just drag them right back over via FTP, and it'll take over where it left off.
Could you just take the hard drive out of the old system and install it in the new one, see if it just boots up?
Oh, you mean the...
Like transplant the hard drive from the dead system into a new system.
Yeah, you could do that, but it would again, it would have to be modded. They're tied to the specific Xbox.
That's right. You still have to load the...
Right. There's a way to lock them down. They have the special locking thing that ties the device, the hard drive size and the device to the Xbox. There is a lot of tutorials. Let me tell you, the best resource is xbox-scene.com. That is by far the best resource. Tons of tutorials, tips, downloads, all the tools you're going to need to do that.
Cool. Good stuff.
Yes.
One more, real quick. Scott from Aberdeen, North Carolina says, I'm running XP Pro. How can I host a website from my home? I want my friends and relatives to see my websites, but I don't want everyone snooping on my internal LAN.
Password on it. It's a bad idea.
That's not a 15-second question. We'll have to answer that one later. That's it for this edition of The Screensavers. I'm Kevin Rose.
And I'm Patrick Norton. Thank you for joining us. We want to thank our guest, Will Wheaton, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Have a good night.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?